Okay. Testing 1, 2. No data. That's not good. Let's see. There we go. It might start to be working. Can I hear anything? No, I can't. I need to re-plug my headphones. Alright, cool. That should do it. Now, how do we say edit, public, done? There we go. I think that's all I need to push, and that should be public. Oh, concurrent viewers just went from 1 to 0. See, at one point in time, when you switched it to public, there would be another button you could push that said, okay, I'm now ready to actually go public. I don't know if this is still the case, but I see 3 concurrent viewers and 1 like. So obviously this must be going out to someone. Hey, welcome, Aaron Gruber. This is the weirdest thing. Normally it doesn't take this long for it to send out notifications to people. Oh well. We'll just we'll roll with whoever's here, and we'll have some fun with it. Basically, what you're about to witness is I'll be taking any kind of questions about, like, behind-the-scenes YouTube stuff, and I figured I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone today, and I would... Oh, I gotta change my... I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone by effectively doing what I was gonna do already, which is work on my commentary for the latest video to upload to Patreon. But I figured, hey, if I stream that, because it's been a while since I streamed anything, then I can make extra content. Except what I need to do right now is pull YouTube up on my phone and disable my little time tracking... I put a child lock on YouTube so I wouldn't spend all day on the app. How do I switch this off? John Mann Productions. Fellow content creator playing the game. You know it. This is going to be a lengthier process than I thought to get out of this. Oh, apparently it's just not sending out notifications to people, it seems like. There we go. Okay, now I can actually open up YouTube on my phone so that I can see the chat while I'm doing other stuff on my computer. Let's see what we've got going on in the chat. What is your favorite color? Orange, definitely, hands down. Step 1 to becoming YouTuber: be attractive woman. Whatever helps. Why do you do that thing in your titles where you add a... Oh, that's like, that little slash line whatever is to... It's just like adding a subtitle, but because you can't move it onto a different line or whatever, you just have to, like, do that. And that way, I can put the life and times of so-and-so in every video title, and that helps with, like, search results, and I think it helps... I think what it does is it helps recommend my videos to people who have already watched one, because they're all titled similarly, and have the same kind of thumbnail and all that. Canubis is here. All right. I feel like there's... I've chosen an interesting time to do this kind of a stream because it seems like there's been kind of just a bunch of people doing this same kind of thing about what goes on behind the scenes on YouTube. I think, Canubis, your live stream touched on that. Congrats on passing 100K, by the way. And then there was that thing with Aton Shea Films, which I think is still not out yet, but At some point, that's coming. You can get an actual, like, properly edited video from him. But in the meantime, please listen to my incoherent ramblings. What's it like being Dutch with your fascination of orange? Oh, man. Oh, God. I'm trying to do the Wilhelmus song, but I cannot remember it for the life of me. Macrotelli, did you watch that internet historian video? Maybe? What video? Did he do something new recently? Alright, now that I've got this open here, I can actually slide on over to doing my homework. So this, I'm assuming you might have seen the last video. If you haven't, it's a good one. This is basically the part of the process now where I read through the script, and I really need a better way of doing this. If I was smart, I would do this as I was writing the script, but I am not that smart, and so it's always after I finish a video that I come back and add in extra information, because usually I end up learning a thing or two in the middle of production. And correcting myself for things like triple agents and stuff like that, because technically, if you're a spy, you're already doing one level of cover, so I don't think I actually understood what a triple agent was there. I don't think there's anything in the ad read I need to get to. Stalin, Soviet, Rockefeller says, do Napoleon, the famous one. I feel like everyone... Well, I shouldn't say that, because I don't really know everything about Napoleon, but I feel like people get the gist of Napoleon. The concept of history is in this stream now. Excellent. I've finally done it. The real challenge is whether or not I'll actually be able to write stuff, because I figured I know I can get, if I can get to the recording section of this, I can do that kind of thing on stream, but actually trying to remember what I was talking about in here and read through it coherently without also losing my train of thought and what I'm supposed to be saying, that's going to be tricky. Oh, M Laser is here as well. Man, I feel like I've seen you guys in like a bunch of my streams. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. This, I would love to know how this South African dude ended up. Is Pedro in any way a Dutch name? Like, I feel like it's very much not, but somehow it must have... Or what's the Dutch version of Peter? Oh, that's right, because there's Zwarte Piet. Of course, I should have known that. Yeah, so why Pedro? Napoleon's servant Rustam Raza. Actually, at some point, what I should do is I need to make like a community post saying basically give me all your recommendations, because I've got this whole list of people, but I'm not running low of people on the list, but I am running low of people on the list that I know enough off the top of my head to be like, oh yeah, I know that's going to be a good video. Mr. Animator, my day is going fine. Alice of Greece and Denmark. Alright, so we got... Is that the same in Afrikaans? Afrikaans version of Peter. Peter. Yeah, no. But then why would... Because his father was... One of them was a Boer, and I think his mother was French? I'm really trying to figure out where this name Pedro came from for his brother. Let's see. Elsbeth makes sense. Oh, Liquid's back. Thanks so much for the donation, saying Spain controlled the Netherlands. Maybe Pedro came from that. That's true. Like, there could have been some kind of a holdover, but then Spain, like, the Netherlands got their independence in a day that I definitely know off the top of my head. Yeah, in the 1600s. So that was a while before this started happening in a while before they colonized South Africa. But it could be. Let me remember your name so I can credit you and put you in that video. This is where I'll just end up rambling to myself. Yeah, so double checked, and Dutch/Afrikaans Peter is copy paste that name. Maybe it's just a holdover from the Spanish days. Thanks to Liquid's back. This is gonna make no sense. I am really gonna need to rephrase some stuff. But this is basically the whole process of writing these videos in the first place. Aramsi says Pedro is still a somewhat common name in the Netherlands today. Really? Sam Aronow, oh hey, what's up? Saying the Netherlands started colonizing South Africa ridiculously early. That's why Afrikaans had the time to become its own language. Oh, you know what? That is a good point. Most of the Dutch Empire already existed before Spain recognized the Netherlands independent. Well, sweet. I'm just gonna talk about this like I know what I'm doing. / Sam Aronow / Aramzi for setting me straight and letting me know. It's probably a holdover from when the Netherlands was held by the Spanish. Why the name Pedro survived, I'll never know. Canubis asked about how many words is a typical script of mine. I would say they run about... I have a number in my head. The number that jumps up in my head is like 1,200-ish. But I don't know if that's before or after I started making these longer videos. Although I do have a favorite website of mine that I'll go to a lot. Wordcounttools.com. This is a lifesaver. Because while I'm writing, I will have to... 2002. Okay, so this one is 2,500 words. Is it... I hope it's not characters I normally look at. This is going to be real embarrassing if this whole time I've been judging how long my videos are based off the number of characters and not the number of words. But usually I'll copy paste the first draft of a script in here, and that way I'll have kind of an estimate as for how long the video is going to be, because if it gets above like 12 or 13 minutes at this point, that is where I really start to fall behind schedule. Or like I did a video for Armchair History TV where the video itself was only 10 minutes, but it didn't have the like little animated scenes. It was all that chalkboard stuff, so that was all stuff that I was doing directly, and oh boy, that threw off my schedule for a while. I'm still like a week behind where I want to be. Canubis says the grade level thing does seem useful though. It is. I don't really have like a target for the readability level, but it is always interesting to note like which one of my scripts end up having like a readability level of like high school versus university or something like that. Mr. Animator is teleporting bread. Bread. Oh, hold on. This is where, yeah. Oh, I can do this stuff from my phone. I never knew I could do that. Moderating chat is something where like usually I just display one window, but because I'm going to be in multiple programs, I've just done my whole display capture. But I always I hate to go into, where is it? I hate to go into this tab on my computer just to look at chat, because then everyone can see when I'm moderating. And I prefer to be a little more discreet than that. Yeah, there is man, mods are a thing that I will probably need to have at some point. Oh, Charlie Hertz asked, strange YouTube question, do you know why your History's Worst Mom video did so well? I don't. There's definitely, if I take a look at my, just all my videos, like, in a row, I think around that time is definitely when I began changing the style of my titles. And so I like to think that that helped. But ultimately, I think it just came down to the whims of the algorithm. Because, like, for example, the, what's it called? The Chris Burden video, the guy that turned self-harm into art. I did... that video came out, and it was like, 8th or 9th out of the last 10 videos, and most of the ones before that had been like 4th or 5th, so it was really underperforming. And then now in like the last week, it's just gotten, tens of thousands of views out of nowhere. So I think the Wu Zetian video is kind of a fluke in a similar regard. But there was like you can see now, for example, the Pedro the First video says the king who declared independence from himself, which I think is kind of like oh, what's going on with that? Whereas before it was just called like the rebel king or something. It was a very sort of like subtitle-y title that didn't really ask a question or, say something unusual or unexpected. Same, yeah, like Hammurabi is just the rise and fall of Babylon. Compared to something like History's Worst Mom, you kind of like, I like to imagine it makes you wonder. But then we have stuff like Carnegie that, goes right into that whole like entrepreneur, can you become a millionaire? And that one never did that well, so who knows? Finbar Conlon says, I was one of those views last week. Thanks. Yeah, for the Chris Burden video, I saw that the very first person that came in here, and I'm sorry I've forgotten your name, but yeah, they said something about the Chris Burden video as well. So yeah, it's just suddenly getting recommended to people now. Ziv Blake asks, any other pope you think about doing? I don't know a lot of popes. At some point, I should probably do like a little bit of research. The only other like Catholic Church thing I've been thinking about doing is what's called the Counter-Reformation, which was basically when the Catholic Church looked at what was going on with the Protestant Reformation, and they decided that, okay, we need to change some things. And so where the Protestant Reformation was actually just like these people going out and doing their own thing, the Counter-Reformation within the church was actually a way to like reform the way that the church behaved. And so something like that I think would be really interesting, because that's like, I had no idea that the church actually responded in a productive capacity at all to the Protestant Reformation, and so I think that's kind of cool. Finbar Conlon says, I feel like you would love to do Admiral Yi. Extra Credits did a great video series on it already. Yeah, I'm semi-hesitant to do something that like I know, people already kind of know from Extra Credits. But yeah, like Admiral Yi is a pretty cool dude. I feel like there's other people that I haven't gotten to yet that like haven't really been touched on by other people that I'm excited to do. Oh, hey, Beanie Funny Gamer, you mentioned in your comments the other day that you were looking forward to catching the stream. I'm glad to see you again. Thank you so much for the donation, saying thank you for putting South Africa in your wonderful universe. Your Afrikaans accent sounds Australian, but otherwise great video. Boer War next? Interesting. I don't know why my Afrikaans accent would sound Australian, but there you go. Maybe I picked up on it from a video that some Australian made on the subject. 'Cause that's the way I pronounce everything, is just copy exactly what someone else has said. Mehmet II, ooh, I think I'd be more likely to do Constantine the 11th than Mehmet II. But like, Fall of the Byzantine Empire, that is definitely a time period that I would love to get into. Byzantine Empire as a whole. I'm just going to read through some of this script so I can try to make some notes. They also ran a small shop where they'd sell some of their goods throughout the year, and tragedy struck when Fritz was 12 years old as his mother was attacked by an unhappy customer. Trying to remember if there's any extra details here. He watched... Nope. Although I do love the fun bit that the animator added where like he stabs the guy with the wrong end of the spear. Although this script, man, I ended up putting a lot in here. Like the whole may or may not have killed Kitchener thing, that would have been some good Patreon fodder, but it got into the main video just in time. 1453, never forget. England, Oxford University, Brussels. Yeah, I gotta get the wiki page back up. Because every once in a while there's a detail in here that I just totally skipped over. Like if we just Command F for Oxford and see what's going on. Nope. I want to know what their trip around the world was like. Like how do you... Like, to be a fly on the wall in that moment and just realizing that, like, you're on your way to school and you meet this guy on a ship. You know he's an embezzler. And at some point in, over the ensuing days that this journey took, one of you proposes to the other, hey, do you want to stop everything you're doing and travel with me around the world? And the other just decided, yeah, you know what? That sounds like a great use of my time. I'm glad he found himself, at least. History's got a question, but has not told me what the question is. Finbar saying there's a hole in the YouTube market for Daniel O'Connell, the great Irish liberator. Ah, potentially. I will just make a note to put that fly in the wall stuff over here. John Mann Productions. I happen to be laid up in bed with a screwed foot to see Jack stream, and there's an idiot in here. Oh, great. Great. This is also, like, moderation is why I've just avoided Discord. Like, I don't know to what extent it helps, channel stats and all that, but, like, moderating it or, like, finding the right mods is tricky. Ziv Blake recommends Muhammad Ali from Egypt. That's true. That's a good one of those, like, yeah, it would be nice to have like a video on someone from that sort of like decolonization of the Ottoman Empire era, or at least the breakup of the Ottoman Empire prior to World War I when it officially went kaput. Have you heard of Oversimplified? Oh, of course I've heard of Oversimplified. I've only seen, I think I've seen his World War I video, his War of Three Kingdoms video, and War of the Bucket, because M. Laser was involved in that one. Either Muhammad Ali would be cool. Oh, there was an interesting thing, I think, about these diamonds that the British ended up... Oh, whoops. What's going on here? Let's look for Second Boer War. There was an interesting thing about the diamonds that they found because it was a ton of, like, a huge mine, if I recall correctly. Like, the actual image of the pit is quite something. Let's see, there was a diamond rush. It was also around this time... Oh, man, what was the... Around this time, because I've been doing editing for Useful Charts, I know that there is a big world's largest diamond. There was this big diamond that was found kind of in the late 1800s. Yeah, the Cullinan diamond. And I wonder if that had anything to do with this territory that was taken during the Second Boer War. Where was it found? Cullinan, South Africa. Let's see. Can I get this on a map? Yeah, that looks like it was in that, I want to say that was like around the Orange Free State area. Of course, their history starts in 1898, so who knows, but I'm pretty sure that is that area. MadWolf96 asked, "What HOI4 mod is this?" Yeah, this is a very niche mod. It's a real specific game. So this is technically an esport. Bama Boney asks, "Am I correct in thinking that diamond is on the Queen's crown?" You are correct in thinking that. That's just what I'm about to get at. Yeah, it's, I think, the second largest piece of it. They ended up splitting it up. The second largest piece is in the crown. I think the largest piece is in her scepter, and then the rest of it got put into like brooches and different pieces of jewelry, which I think are all owned by the Queen. All right, hey, I'm just seeing, I'm seeing a lot of repetitive caps in chat. I'm gonna ask for a stop to that, or I'm gonna have to start modding a little more actively. Matthias Heister talks about Dovahati's Rome videos. That's true. He's got some great videos on Rome. It's a shame he's I wonder what he's gonna do now that he's actually like caught up to the fall of Rome. I wonder if he's gonna go through Byzantine history, although the way he had like a farewell video at the end, so it doesn't sound like it. It'll be a shame to see him go. What? There's someone talking about the Queen being seduced by a reporter and her diamonds being replaced by glass. I think, I think that's going to be, like, is that some movie that I'm unfamiliar with? The entire Rome series was a sarcasm of history embodied. Oh, defenest. Oh, okay. I assume Alentian Estetico that you were talking when you say his latest one, that's Dovahati, that he's doing other stuff now, like the defenestration of Prague. That'll be fun. Moritz Cole asks, "How much work do you put in your YouTube video a week?" That is an excellent question. It varies week by week. Like there'll typically be weeks where I really don't get up and do as much as I should be. And there are, no, I have my calendar up, but that's also got like non-work stuff related, and like personal life things. But I'd say it's, at least like a regular kind of like 40-hour work week, because I need to get better about setting myself like weekend days, because what'll happen is I'll wait too long, and then I'll just do a whole bunch of stuff all at once, and then get the video out, and then be like, all right, no, now that I'm exhausted from that, I'm just gonna like do nothing today, and then that ends up spilling over to the next day because I don't have a whole schedule. So one of these days I'm gonna get that get my life on track. uh Fionn O'Fallon. Oh man, I don't know what it is about Irish names that makes them just the most difficult thing for me to pronounce. But yeah, saying that they like the subtle Call of War product placement. That's I've kind of been holding this tab open because I'm playing a game with all the people from the Fritz Duquesne video, and at the risk of exposing myself to all the other players in this game who might be watching, basically things have not gone well. Germany really beat me and has just been allowing me to live out of mercy. Civil War week by week. Oh, interesting. Who needs good time management when you don't sleep? Exactly. Bait Hunter sends in a donation with just a real smooth sunglasses smiley face. Joe asks, how do you do your research? Mostly starting with Wikipedia and branching out from there. Matthias Heister asks, what kind of criteria do you use to pick people for videos? Hold on. Right here you can see all the stuff that goes into an individual episode. But picking people that's the wrong document. I've got a list here. And basically, I've shown this off on stream before, but I have, the most important thing for me is kind of the log line, because this ends up being the title and thumbnail, which has a huge impact on how well the video performs. But it's just people that have been suggested or that I've found interesting while researching other stuff, and then a quick little bit about who they are and why I think they're interesting, and then just a little extra information about, like, okay, is this going to be too similar to other videos I've done? Like, is this another European man from the 19th century? I want to vary up the location, time period, and all that. And then lastly, if there's something that'll go particularly well with like a specific sponsor, then that's always a good call. So to answer your question, that is how I choose people. Bait Hunter sends in another donation with a little doge. Wikipedia, that's a young man's study. Comments on YouTube videos, that's where it's at. Oh yeah, that's where you find the real historians. Actually, that's where you'll find a mix between people who know a surprising amount about history and people who know surprisingly little. You're really taking a gamble. Now to find out why this guy got named the Black Panther. The Black Panther, he operated on the codename Dunn. What is this? It was during one of his early hunting trips that he became interested in panthers. He observed a black panther waiting motionless for the perfect time to strike. Aha! Became his totem. What? And its hunting style also became his. I love, like, when Wikipedia will just have, like, a little bit of flair. It'll be like, oh, and he would mimic the way that it would strike, and thus he became the Black Panther. Is a sacred object or symbol that serves as an emblem of people. Ah, I see. Was that such as a family, clan, lineage, or tribe? Does it have to be like a physical thing? Or can a totem, like, I'm seeing mostly pictures of totem poles, so I guess like a coat of arms and that sort of thing wouldn't be considered a totem. Anyway. Wikipedia has a particularly dramatic retelling. Sorry, I cannot speak while typing, which I should have known going into this video. Sean McLaughlin asks, is learning classical Latin a waste of time? Well, it depends what you want to do with it. If you want, like, if you enjoy learning classical Latin, it's not a waste of time. If you want to read, like, Plutarch or Livy or whomever else, or Virgil, in the original language, like, that's great. If you're hoping to speak with anyone in the modern day, you're going to be out of luck. But aside from that, Your Royal Highness asks, I saw Gregor McGregor on the list. What? WTF 101 did a segment about him, and now I would like to see the Jack Rackham edition just to destroy what College Humor did. I didn't realize College Humor did history videos. Yeah, Ramsey says basically exactly what I just said, but in fewer words with regards to classical Latin. The White Death, eh? Yeah. Civil War week by week. What awkward silence is amazing. Yeah, if I ever go silent for a minute, it's because I'm trying to be moderately productive and get to the point where I can actually... Because what I would like to do is if I could actually get through some of this, and maybe I'll just record what I have now and do the rest later. I would like to kind of like walk through the process of how I go through most of my videos, you know, the whole recording setup, going into the editing, that kind of thing. Ovidiu Teodorescu asks, I want to be a Fortnite YouTuber just like you. Can I get a few tips from the best? Well, you see, is Fortnite still popular? Is that still, like, do the Fortnite YouTubers still bring in as much as they were, like, 2-3 years ago? In any case, it's the same basic stuff on YouTube. It's titles and thumbnails and collabs, all that good stuff. I'm switching back onto desktop so that you can actually see, but it's gonna take a little while to catch up. When do you do Qingxi? Qingxi's fun. There's also what I'd love to do, but there's not enough information about her, is that French woman that was turned to piracy in like the 1300s or something. That was crazy. How's this? Fight with the gold. How did that go down? The toddies. Oh, native porters. I see. Those toddies. I'm very curious about the people that actually go looking for these sorts of buried treasure, and what, like, I assume most of the people just kind of go out into the wilderness, like, hoping for the best, but it would be really interesting to, like, talk with someone who actually is just doing, like, a ton of primary research on, like, Fritz Duquesne and where he would have gone realistically in order to transport the gold from point A to point B, and the records of where the army was and all those sorts of things. Some real national treasure moments. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on from this just so you don't have to stare at this all day, and record a couple footnotes onto Audition, and you can just hear how that process goes. It's a lot of me repeating myself over and over and over. Someone recommends the Ptolemies, always a solid choice. Ramsey asks, I think there's a lot more historical research involved with most treasure hunts like this, or at least the ones that don't just go on a whim. Yeah, I always wonder what the proportion of that is. Let's see, Fritz commentary. Do I prefer the Habsburg or the Ptolemies? Well, in terms of just, like, who's the funniest to learn about, definitely the Ptolemies. In terms of who do I respect more, that's probably the Habsburgs. Because the Habsburgs, you can get, like, some good actual drama out of them. The Ptolemies, it's just... it's nutty all the way down. I should not eat on stream. Morganti Matteo says, due to the Devil Commander. More badass than Fritz. Who's the Devil Commander? Yes, the Ptolemies are definitely the more inbred. Someone... oh, I missed it. I think it was Civil War week by week again. The real question is, how many takes do you have to do before it's all good? Let's find out, shall we? Oh, except you know what? If I've got one thing open on my phone and one thing over here. Ha-ha! Technology. This is probably the most fun part of the whole video process. It's a lot more fun on like a video where it's like a lot more high energy, but doing the footnotes is also fun. It also is like, it really goes to show that even the footnotes, which are written in this very like off the cuff kind of, oh, you know, I'm just kind of recalling stuff off the top of my head. It's all pre-written, because if I was just talking off the top of my head, it would sound terrible. It would sound like a live stream. Who knows why you people listen in? What is this first one in response to? All right, let's see how long this takes. Technically not sure if the guy who took down Duquesne, whatever his name was, would be considered a triple agent. He's a spy posing as a spy posing as a civilian, but I guess a regular spy is already undercover as a civilian, so that one doesn't really count. Undercover as a civilian, so that doesn't really count. Ayo. The Devil Commander, Italian soldier in World War II. Ah, I see. That there's so many stories about World War II soldiers. Like, I know there's a lot of them, but it's still like, even given the number of people that fought in that war, it's crazy to me how many stories came out of it. Because like there really isn't anything like that for wars before the 20th century. Like, I can't think of stories of like a particular soldier even from like the Napoleonic Wars. You know, you get some like commanders and stuff, but you never get that kind of story from foot soldiers. It's amazing. Who was it that said, yeah, Civil War again, saying, this is all scripted, don't trust anything. That's the real mystery. I'm actually reading from a teleprompter off screen. Mizuki Oniusa says, take my money. Also, keep up your work. It's awesome. Thank you so much. Samuel Whitmore fought in 4 wars at the age of 78, killed 4 redcoats in the Revolution all at once. Oh, well, there you go. Oh, that's like, oh no, who's the guy I'm thinking of? Oh, I think he fought in World War I, but he may have also fought in World War II. The guy whose famous quote was, frankly, I enjoyed the war. And he's just like, I don't know how much like heroic like accomplishments he did, but he just got blown to pieces and like every injury imaginable. And he comes out the other end being like, oh yeah, no, that was fun. All right, we'll see if reading this actually works or if I'm going to have to rewrite everything. Yeah, so double-checked, and Dutch/Afrikaans Peter... Yeah, so double-checked, and the Dutch/Afrikaans version of Peter is Petrus... Oh, there's supposed to be another name there. Also, I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, so double-checked, and the Dutch/Afrikaans version of Peter is Petrus/Peter. Peter. I'll just say it a bunch of different ways, and whichever one is right later, I'll edit in. Peter. Thanks to Liquids back /Sam Aronow /Aramzi for setting me straight and letting me know it's probably a holdover from when the Netherlands was held by the Spanish. Why the name Pedro survived and not others, I'll never know. Yes, Christopher Agger, Adrian Carton Deviart, that guy. Dog Meat General, Admiral Tegedoff, Great Pacific Egg War. Great Pacific Egg War? Ed Gein. Oh, I see people talking about Roman civil wars. I'm trying to track this conversation, but I'm kind of missing it. Oh yeah, and the dude that killed John Wilkes Booth. I kind of remember him. Wasn't the guy that killed John Wilkes Booth, wasn't he like part of some like weird cult somewhere like out in the country? This chat has turned entirely into recommendations, and I am not knowledgeable enough to be able to speak on all of them, nor am I able to write them all down right now. But I assure you, when the day comes, I will put out a community post asking for recommendations. But if there's anything you'd like to know about behind the scenes on YouTube, now's the time. Bama Boney asks, would you make a video about Mad Jack? Yeah, the British World War II. Yeah, I think he's gonna be, like, I think that would be too similar to, like, I don't want to put out a bunch of, you know, badass World War II soldiers too close to each other. Like, I've already had, Leo Major and, Wojtek, which is kind of an exception, and that's why I put it as close to Leo Major as I did, because he's a literal bear. But yeah, I don't want to spend too much time like in World War II. It's same with Fritz Duquesne. You know, he's a little different being a spy, which is, you know, again, I didn't want to do like just another soldier, but he's kind of fits in that same vein of like, here's a guy who just happened to be involved in all of these different events of the 20th century. Zipfleisch asks, is this your first / only channel? It is not my first channel. I, like, you know, tried YouTube as a kid a long time ago. But this is my only channel, and I want to make more. Like, I would love to at some point be basically, you know, just the, like, the, you know, producer or idea developer to be like, hey, I've got this awesome idea, I'm gonna make it into a channel, and then I need, you know, I want you guys, I got this great team on board, etc., etc. That is not in the cards for me right now, but it's something I would love to do down the line. And also it's being on YouTube, like, YouTube channels don't like last forever, so that's also part of why I want to branch out. Do you have a degree in history? I do not have a degree in history. Cameron Cook asks, have you ever thought about doing non-biographical videos? I could see you covering a small war or strange historical event, for example. I've thought about it. I think for this channel, I think I'm going to stay with biographies, unless there comes a point where, like, history is still popular, but biographies are failing me. It gives, the thing I like about biographies is that it gives me kind of an angle to approach the subject from. Like, for, I'm working on, I shouldn't use a future video as an example, because that's going to spoil who the next video is going to be about. But if I can find an example, well, I guess, like, for the, okay, here's a good example. For the Frederick II, for the Antichrist video, that is one where, like, I could talk about the events of that video just on their own, and that would be, like, interesting enough, but I think what makes it a little more compelling is the fact that it is a biography, and the fact that instead of, I don't have to be completely unbiased. I can kind of tell it a little bit from Fred's perspective, and talk about, oh my God, this absurd pope is being childish and stubborn and obstinate, and it's like 4 popes in a row that are all giving him so much grief over nothing. And that's like, just like, it's still kind of true. Like, it's not, a baseless attack on the popes for no reason. Like, they were doing some really stupid stuff about, like, oh, you're getting excommunicated for not going to the Holy Land in time. Now you're getting excommunicated because you did go to the Holy Land. But it's nice to have that kind of, like, grounding. Let's see. Yeah, now I'm looking at a lot of chat stuff that's all recommendations of people again. Someone talks about Crassus. That'd be cool. It would. I was gonna say it would complete the trilogy, but I never talked about Caesar, so it wouldn't actually. Jump into the next thing here. Would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Hey, I know we just met a few days ago, but would you like to accompany me on a trip around the entire world? Sure, sounds good to me. Fishwax, I love your voice. So funny in your vids. No offense. None taken. None taken. Moritz Cole says you should make a video about Jack Rackham. Was a guy that... Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the pirate for a second, and I was about to tell you that I did, in fact, make a video about the pirate. But it is... there is a video titled Life and Times of Jack Rackham on my channel, but the full video is on Patreon for free. John Man Production says, so Adobe Audition is an audio processor. I tend to use Reaper for my audio work. Yeah, Audition, I've been pretty happy with it. I just kind of get the whole Adobe suite because it's what I'm used to, and I'm able to, just like pay for it once a year and not really worry about it. Someone says, do a video on the life and times of Giguk. Well, he'd have to be dead first. Or I was like, oh yeah, Audition. Yeah, Audition, I've just gotten used to it at this point, so I can't really compare it to anything else. But I like it. I like what it can do, and I especially like that I have the ability to, I can't actually hear anything, but like just by looking at the spectrograph, I can tell that this is like some incidental mouth noise just made from like lip smacks or something like that. So you can just go in and you can brush it out. And that is the most satisfying feeling in the world, because I absolutely hate all those random, terrible mouth noises that get mixed up in speech. Which is why I've done some sound editing work for other people, because I derive great satisfaction from it. What's the last thing I've got to do? I think I only have one more of these, and then I can jump into Premiere. Yeah. No. Oh, is this just a note to myself? Yeah, it is just a note to myself. Most of the time, I'll write the script and then make the shot list and then put the scenes together. But every once in a while, I'll have an idea for how I want it to look as I'm writing, so I'll just make a little note to myself on the side. And that's why all the footnotes have to begin with FN, so that I actually know not to read something about, oh, hey, for animation, try having them meet in a dark room. Wikipedia has a particularly dramatic account of how this nickname came to be, involving a young Fritz beholding the power and majesty of the panther striking its prey, and vowing from that day forward to adopt its hunting style as his own. Love it when Wikipedia adds a little flavor text. I think I hit the mic at some point there. I gotta redo that. how this nickname came to be, involving a young Fritz beholding the power and majesty of the panther striking its prey, and vowing from that day forward to adopt its hunting style as his own. Love it when Wikipedia adds a little flavor text. Okay. Interesting question from Ramsey. Thank you. Saying, okay, so aside from all the recommendations and interesting people in chat, do you think there is any money to be made in political YouTube, or is it too advertiser unfriendly? That is an interesting question. I don't know any political YouTubers like personally, but there are some out there. I'll say this, there is a video, or there's a channel called Let's Talk Elections, which is all like, US elections based, but it's very much on the level of almost like looking at it like a fantasy sports league or something, where you're just looking at, who has the best odds where and what is kind of popular with people and what are the demographics and stuff like that. So there's ways you can approach it where it doesn't even have to be unfriendly to advertisers at all. But there's also excuse me. There's also the the crowdsource model, which is if you have a format that is inexpensive enough to make, so that you can make it for enough time on your own without getting any kind of return. If you build up an audience that way, you can potentially do crowdfunding and have most of your money coming through Patreon and that kind of thing. Because especially with political content, right, the people that you're going to be attracting to your videos, if you are, showing your political leaning, is going to be people who really, really care about the things that you're talking about, and so you're sort of more likely to get that kind of direct audience support, as compared to, education channels. They still have the fact that hey, this is education and I'm doing a good and noble thing, but compared to pure entertainment channels, it would be weird for Jake Paul or something to have a Patreon and be like, hey, please give me money, because he has so many other avenues to get people's money. So to answer your question, that is what I think about the possibility of political channels on YouTube. What am I missing during that? Ramsey says, yeah, I'd probably do an EU-centered thing because I feel like most channels out there are US-focused. Yeah, I'm too opinionated to do the sports league stuff. Would probably focus on the crowdsourcing. Yeah, I think that would be the way to go. And, it's always nice to have a place where people can get informed about politics anyway. But yeah, it works for, I'm pretty sure that is the main, I think anyway, that's the main source of income for, channels like ContraPoints, which is, pretty overtly political. Donation from Joseph Meyer. Thank you. Saying, hey man, really love the channel. It fits my history niche of awesome political/royal biographies of stupidly epic figures. Stupidly epic figures and epically stupid figures. What do you want your age group to be because your vids are informational? I'm missing something here. I love that. I love that this is kind of the conversation going on right now. Talking about, I'd love an EU one because loads of creators are American. Love to learn more about my own Irish history specifically. The ones you cover in your videos, who would you most easily defeat, and who would most easily defeat you in a gladiator match? Oh boy, in a gladiator match. I've got to edit this. I was about to put it into Premiere already. I would say, am I allowed to challenge them in their old man form. You know, I'll fight them on their last day alive. Uh, I I like to think that I would be able to beat Nero, considering he was like a 17-year-old kid when he took the throne. So that's still kind of like the era of Nero that people actually think of him. He was still that young. I'm not just electing to take on him before he was famous. Um, person that would most easily, I mean, the person that would most easily defeat me is hands down Teddy Roosevelt. I wouldn't stand a chance. Oh, I gotta switch. That's why I can't hear anything right now. My headphones are in the wrong port. Get my phone back up so I can see what's going on. So many things to look at right now. Which person did you do a video on that you would like to meet the most? On the contrary, which person would you avoid like the plague? Ooh, who would I like to meet the most? I'm half inclined to say that I would like to meet one of the crazy people just to like get what's going on in their heads. But I don't know. I feel like Teddy Roosevelt would be pretty inspiring. I would be interested in meeting Franz Joseph Haydn, just because like Haydn, I so respect that he was able to be an artist that just kind of did his own thing, had a stable job for years and years working with that one family, and like was just able to focus on making cool art for like his whole life. People I would not want to meet, I don't know, I'm trying to think who is just like the most, like, I think even the really crazy historical figures that I've covered, like if you met them on the street, I don't think they would be, super like belligerent or anything. I mean, maybe I'd be a little anxious about meeting Attila the Hun, whether or not that's really deserved. And you guys can't hear this because that would be really confusing to have my voice going through twice on this stream. Who would you never do a video on? I mean, lots of people. Anyone who's just not interesting enough for a video, I wouldn't do a video on just a random Joe Schmo. I think this is the right one. Oh, I saw like a highlighted box come up in the chat, and I thought, oh, what is this, a donation? It's YouTube telling me, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Blada thinks it's deserved. Yeah, Blada the Hun is would probably advise me to steer clear. I forget sometimes just like the number of people. Well, that's not true. I always remember the number of people that I've done because each of my folders are named with the numbers, that they're all in order. But I forget specifically some of the people that I've done, especially the ones that like. I remember the videos that end up being the most popular because I see comments from them the most often, and then there's videos like John Marshall or John Horst that just like I only think about every once in a while. Opinion on mayonnaise on chips/fries. It's fine. Someone's agreeing with Joseph Meyer, and I don't know what Joseph Meyer says. Oh, Joseph Meyer says, I like your channel because you do videos on people that are not commonly seen. Why, thank you. That was kind of the original approach that I wanted to take, was like, let's find all the people that aren't in like the history books that you don't know about, but who still have an interesting life story and who still played their own little small part in making the world the way it is today. Okay. Normally I'd be splicing the best parts of these takes together, but usually for these, it's casual enough that I'll just take whatever the best take is, or whatever the first complete take is, and run with that. And sometimes I'll even leave a breath in the middle because it's just so super cash. Oh, that's the pronunciation. I gotta keep that in. Cool. Try to divide them all so I can actually tell which is which. We're getting to the editing soon, boys. Don't worry. You would definitely defeat Diogenes. That's true, but I haven't made a video on Diogenes. When you want to get emotion across, do you over or underact? I think you just act whatever is appropriate. Like, it depends on the emotion. You know, usually like you want to overact if it's something like just absurd and crazy and hilarious, or maybe if it's like just something really upsetting. But otherwise, you know, like if it's something that's still like fresh and like if it's a very recent tragedy, or if it's like, you know, if the emotion you want to get across is like, hey, this is actually messed up and we need to talk about it, then obviously you don't want to be, you know, this huge caricature of yourself. I see some good questions and I'm about to get to them. I'm just making sure that this is all the right stuff. All right, this is a breath I'm gonna remove. This is 90% of what audio editing looks like, is just going in, targeting, getting rid of individual breaths to try to make the pacing better. Because if all goes well, you should never hear me breathing in one of my videos. And then I'm sure someone's gonna find a clip to contradict that. Oh, I can't turn my volume up because of that stupid microphone. Alright, I think this take is actually good. We'll be very cocky and get rid of that last one. And save this. Wait, you breathe? Unacceptable. I know. The unrealistic beauty standards that we hold creators to. It's absurd. I think I've just spoiled something, but hopefully no one noticed. Efforts commentary 1. Yep, great. So, all right, let's get those questions. Who said we didn't want to hear your breathing? I don't want to hear my breathing. I don't want you to hear my breathing. This is not a thing that I want. Oh, I love it. I love seeing collaboration going on with a Ramsey in Civil War. Which figure were you least sure you wanted to do a video on? I would say a couple had me a little nervous going into it. I was a little nervous about Cleopatra. I was a little nervous like at first with Cleopatra, but as I did research, I quickly discovered that like there is a surprising amount more like really interesting stuff going on with Cleopatra beyond just Rome taking over Egypt. I was a little unsure about how John Marshall was going to play out because I had already used the angle of like least interesting man in the world for Haydn, and with John Marshall, it's not that he isn't interesting, because he is like this overlooked figure that had a very large impact on the judicial branch of the United States government. But he's just kind of a more dry figure. Like, he wasn't really a crazy man, and there wasn't really anyone else in his life who was crazy, aside from, like, you know, maybe a quick mention of Andrew Jackson being obstinate. But then, you know, of course, like, the Cleopatra video did really well, and the John Marshall one didn't so much. Of course, I was also, like, the performance in that one wasn't great. I had a cold and all that, but yeah. But there's also been like videos that I've been really excited about that have, I don't want to say tanked, but, you know, just not done as well. The one that I was really not sure about doing was originally the Chris Burden video, which is now doing so well, but which looked for a while like it was going to kind of flop. It was originally going to be a video about what are they called? Gilbert and Sullivan, who are the guys who made all of these comedic operas in. I'm gonna switch this over to the chat just so we got some kind of visual going on. They're these guys that did these comic operas in the 1800s, such as the Pirates of Penzance, which you might recall from the modern Major General song. And I love, like, Pirates of Penzance, great musical. They also kind of, like, invented the modern musical. They are sort of the bridge between, like, opera and Broadway. But anyway, I was going to make a video on them because I wasn't sure if Chris Burden was going to work out, because, you know, the idea of making a video about this guy who just uses violence against himself for shock, like, that's something that's a little bit dodgy, trying to then turn that into, like, and if you want to do art where you can hurt yourself, go to Skillshare. But they were actually, like, so I made the thing about Gilbert and Sullivan first, and I really wasn't feeling it. Like, I had done my best to try to give it, like, a compelling arc, and it was kind of about, like, it ended up being about the differences that ultimately drove them apart, the creative differences. But I wasn't feeling it, and then Skillshare came through and was like, hey, that video you're actually really excited about, like, we're gonna be totally cool and let you do that. So luckily that ended up being what happened, and I still have the unreleased Gilbert and Sullivan script around somewhere. And I saw a donation, so I gotta get to that now. Dan sends in $10 just to say thank you. When are you taking on Raid Shadow Legends? I haven't seen an ad for Raid Shadow Legends in a while. I don't know if that's because they've stopped their campaign, or if they've just finally realized that bombarding the entire internet might not be the best move and they want to be a little more discreet with who they're partnering with. Who knows? Joshua Gebert says, I saw you left a comment on a JJ McCullough video at like 3 a.m. Sleep schedule going all right? You know, sleep schedule, it's going. Also, how do you know what time zone that is? Might not be 3 for me. If I want to do a history channel, where do you recommend me to start with? I just start. It doesn't really matter where. I love seeing this, like, ongoing developing thing with about this EU politics video going on in the chat. What am I missing? Your time zone is showing bottom right of the stream. Touche. Raid made real ads with production value. True. What drove you to do history? Just kind of a general interest. I had an idea for a history video. I didn't know I wanted to do, like, all history, but I did a history video on Henry II of France, and then just kind of kept rolling with it. Watching the chat go by on your screen is making me physically ill. Well, apologies. Here's what I can do. I can bring us out of Adobe Audition. Ooh, if you want to feel physically ill, we just play around in here for a while. I can get us into Premiere, and we can go through the editing process together. And then you can all get a sneak peek of what's going on to Patreon. Let's see. I thought I saw a couple other questions about YouTube stuff. The people want to collab with OSP. That'd be nice. I'd be down to do another collab with OSP. I think that would be fun. Unfortunately, the Woods of 10 video, which luckily it ended up doing so well, you know, I hope some of that ended up actually bringing traffic to them. But That video, I unfortunately, the timing with that video just got all messed up, and I did not have it ready until like the 11th hour. And so I really worry that I just made like a really bad impression on them by being like unprofessional and not having my video ready on time. I was so afraid. It didn't end up happening, but I was so afraid that I was going to mess up their upload schedule, which is like, a lot more regular than mine, especially at the time, because I was still doing videos, once a month ish, and occasionally just going on hiatus for an entire season. Not the dimensional rift. I can see when you're catching up to me. Ever had students inspired by you to copy your style in their history reports? I don't know. I don't have students. That'd be cool, though. I hope there's people copying my style in history reports. I feel like that's something you could get away with in high school, is having just a super like casual, really like off the cuff report, as long as you show you know what you're talking about. Like, I don't see that going down too well in college, but in high school, if you've got the right teacher, totally. Oh, this is all the stuff I was using to make the thumbnail for this very live stream. Let's go find that commentary. Would you start a feud with another YouTuber as a marketing ploy? It depends how much it would actually help and whether or not the other YouTuber is down to do that. CO2 Blue says, as an OSP viewer, I don't think they care. That's reaffirming. Although it's also been a while since I talked with them, because they've just haven't been quite as active on the same like social media platforms and stuff that I have been on. I should get in touch sometime. William Mendo says, you could get away with it in college. Almost 2 decades ago, I made a slideshow puppet show for a report and got like a 90 out of 100. Nice. Yeah, it's true. If it's a gen ed class, what do you care? Why was I? Oh, I totally forgot how I actually make these videos for a second. We'll go find. Oh God, wait. Did this one? Yes, this did go to a V2. Did it go to a V? It went to a V3. Okay, only 3 versions of this video. Normally, I just search for version 1, and that's the end of it. Here's an interesting question from Terno asking, how long did it take to think this is my style and I'm going to stick with it? It wasn't something, like, it wasn't something that was ever really decided. It was only something that I kind of realized, and it still kind of changed over time. There was a while where it was just a crappy slideshow, and then there was a little bit where it was basically game theory's style that I had ripped off without even realizing it. And then, like, after that, it started to get to a place that I was, like, really proud of, where it got a little bit more, like, cinematic. And then, of course, I started handing off the animation to other people, and it got even better, even though I don't get to hold the same, like, kind of, like, yeah, check me out kind of attitude, Ziv Blake says, say something bad about matriculations. That should do it. Yeah, that's how we get Shad in here. His spidey senses for matriculations will go off. Yes, matriculations, they were clearly the worst form of castle defense, because obviously the better strategy is to douse people in boiling oil and shoot them with fire arrows. So now I can get a feud going with Lindy Beige at the same time. Oh, that's right, I'm looking for triple agents. Triple agents. Aha! So we want to start about here. That is, I'm still trying to figure out, I need to find ways to work in more stuff like this into my videos. A little Doug DeMuro reference there. Oh, am I going to have to... Oh, that's only like one frame. I think I can do it. I can get away with this. If I do this... Wait, this... Unlink. Add frame hold. Make this a picture. It's just going to look a little weird at the start, but then we can get the whole word in here. Yeah. Professional. You could always publicly announce that beige is in fact not that good of a color. Beige is fine. I feel like that's what beige is for. You know, it's just one of those, like, it's there, it does its job, it works, it's acceptable. Out of curiosity, has working on this channel changed your idea of history as a whole in any way? Yes, kind of. I want to say so. Like, I don't think I have a grand overarching theory of history now, but it definitely, like, I see it. The primary way that I look at history right now is just as, like, this, you know, cinematic universe that I can steal stories from at my own discretion. But obviously that's, you know, just looking at it as someone who takes stories from history for a living. Slap that in there. Somebody document that and send it to Lloyd. Yeah, I hope you're all recording. Otherwise, gonna have to get the link from Patreon. Ha ha ha! You can only start drama if I benefit from it monetarily. Did you like CK3? I did like CK3. That's why I did a few playthroughs with on CK3 in CK3. I'm gonna move all this up. I just sort of like ended up losing momentum on that particular playthrough, and also because like I wanted to do some other stuff in my live streams. I was worried that people would get bored of, like, you know, the same game for weeks on end. But then again, judging from viewership numbers alone, I think those streams did better than this one. But I am kind of enjoying this one a little more, being able to, like, actually hold some more conversations. If you had to put a percentage on it, how much work goes into the thumbnail? You mentioned it was quite important. The thumbnail is very important, but it is not something that takes a lot of time. I can open up a thumbnail for a video. It's usually just like a few layers, especially because I have kind of a formula for how the thumbnail should look. And you know, it's got to be like the main character up by the front, and something in the thumbnail which alludes to the title. You know, so in this case, him being the most interesting man in the world, have a little, like, resume on the side. But it's really, you know, it doesn't take too long to slap all this down, and just it's just about, like, making sure that the letters will fit on top, that the person's head doesn't get in the way. Because every once in a while, you end up with something like, I think it was the Hong Xiuquan thumbnail, and that one ended up being kind of annoying, just because no matter what size I made him, he always blocked kind of an awkward segment of the thumbnail. The real trick is just making sure it's readable at a small size. Yeah, like, if you can read it there, then you're probably good. Because what I used to do is I had these thumbnails that looked pretty good when you had them at, like, you know, a full 1920 by 1080 resolution, but they just didn't really, they were too busy and you couldn't read them at a thumbnail size. Whereas this, like, you know, it's kind of grainy up close, but, like, it works fine. Friend Balcal asks, do you leave many Easter eggs in your videos? Boy, do I. I leave a ton of Easter eggs. Not as many, like, I don't leave as many now that I am a little more hands-off with, was I doing anything in Photoshop? I don't think so. Now that I'm a little more hands-off with the animation, I don't put as many Easter eggs in, because usually those Easter eggs end up getting added when I'm like, 5 hours into working on something, and I'm like, it would be fun. I'll just put a little secret message in here. But yes, there are a few of my videos that have Easter eggs that to this day no one has ever noticed or ever found or called me out on. MMan07311 asks, is this going to stay up, or are you going to delete it after it's done? It's going to go unlisted, at which point it is going to be available only on Patreon. But glad to have you here while you're here. Oh, it's a YouTube history group. How big is your fear of a dead hard drive? Not as big as it should be. Censorship on historical content on YouTube. It hasn't affected me as much as you might think. I personally have gotten pretty lucky in terms of like what I've been able to talk about and what I've been able to kind of get away with. It might be because it's like a little more animated compared to having just like photos of stuff. I don't know. But I've been relatively fortunate in that regard. Someone else had a question that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to answer it after I did that other one, but I don't know where it went. Oh no. Oh, that's right. Someone was asking about recommended reading. It kind of depends. I don't have any recommendations for like history as a whole, but there are a couple like let's see. There's a book called Rejected Princesses that is pretty good. It kind of takes like a fun approach to it. It's like relatively light reading, but it covers like a pretty broad swath of history. I'd say that one's a pretty good in terms of general. In terms of books that I've read while doing research, Fritz Duquesne has a couple books about him. William Walker, there was a book about him that was pretty good. Trying to remember the others. Oh, and Iliam Doan, of course. That had a really interesting book associated with him. That was just called, I think it was actually called like Iliam Doan, Patriot or Traitor. I have it on my desk here. Anyway, it's just yeah. It's by Jennifer Cooley Drescow, if you're looking for it. I don't need any other materials in here. I have to remember where all this came from. Oh, that's right. This is Pedro. Ah! Alright. I'm still going to have to edit this. Man, I really thought I was going to be able to, like, pull off a really smooth trick, being able to, like, get a whole bunch of work done while on stream. Should have known better. Oh, here's a 1 minute ad. It's still going. There we go. Where's the part where he talks about the names? Just talking about myself in the third person. Nothing to see here. There we go. We'll start from there. This would be very... Yeah, it's a good thing I don't have the audio on. It's a lot of back and forth. I should probably... Well, I say I should. Who knows whether or not I should. But if you're interested in me pulling up an old, like, animation thing from... I think William Walker's the most recent one I have the full animation for. Let me know, and I can pull a little behind the scenes on that as well. Did that ever get... Huh. I don't think that ever got put into screen mode. It looks like it's just black in the background instead of being transparent to the chalkboard. Things that I notice and very few people will care about. I'm sure that's what you were all thinking as you were watching it. It also, yeah, it's weird the things that you'll notice in a video that you'll be like, oh, this is gonna be a problem, versus the things that people will actually comment on. Like the webcomic post I made the other day. I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna get comments being like, but Trigun is a thing, and no, it was all JoJo references. Would you ever do a political channel? Probably not. Where was I when Constantinople fell? I'm sorry, I wasn't there. I couldn't save it. Why are you editing the last video? I am not editing the last video. What I'm doing is I am editing footnotes and commentary and sort of behind the scenes stuff like that will eventually be put up onto Patreon. So the people that were here kind of at the beginning of this stream, they got to see me struggling to write footnotes and record them. Fran Balcal asks, have you ever had a crazy fan interaction? I have not. I have not had much in the way of fan interactions at all, besides just, YouTube comments and live streams and stuff like that. I've had a few, like, weird comments and things like that, but nothing, nothing that has caused me serious concern, and I feel grateful for that. Here's the embezzler bit. A favorite YouTube mapping channel? You mean besides Mapmen? There are others? Or are you talking like more like the stuff that like Emperor Tiger started as? Do you still read YouTube comments? If yes, how do you sort them? I do read YouTube comments. I have a thing. I have the YouTube Studio app shows me just all comments across all videos by recency. So I love this little effect. I really want to know how to do this. Start there. I never want to include too much stuff in this commentary because I don't want it to be all filled with just the video that people have already seen. Random embezzler you met on the way over. Slap that in there. Someone's talking about the effect has to do with masking layer. Oh, are you talking about the spiral thing? Probably. Where did you find the buff black band PNG, and also why did you find it? It was because I believe it was a Zulu man who was the one involved in that attack on Fritz's mother. So I went, oh God, it was really difficult trying to find pictures of like actual Zulu people. Like there are different cases in history where like the thing itself is well known, but it is so warped and distorted from the historical reality that all you can find in terms of pictures are like costumes. Like almost anything medieval. Like if you try looking up, what medieval kings wore or that sort of thing. Like luckily there are some historical documents for that kind of thing, but so much of it is just like, oh, here's a Party City costume of a medieval knight. And sometimes you've just got to embrace that and just make that, part of the style and part of the joke. But every once in a while, like when I really want to find something that's a little more accurate, it can be tough. Are there any videos that you have done where you comment on different versions or opinions of history? I don't think so. I mean, the Fritz Duquesne video, there was that whole segment about him blowing up Kitchener's ship that I said was like probably, not what actually happened. In terms of like things where multiple different versions of it exist, I kind of want to do. I don't. It's going to be tricky, and I don't totally know how I want to format it. But at some point, I would like to do a video on Elizabeth Bathory. So maybe that's like a thing for next Halloween or something. You heard it here first. Oh, I thought I had a footnote about the diamond. I guess I didn't record it. Because y'all were distracting me. Oh, that's right. It's a Black Panther. Where is the Black Panther logo? It's fun in this video because you can tell which parts I animated and which parts I didn't, because there's a slightly different style. Like, I didn't do quite as much of the like pans, and I didn't do the sort of that kind of image of like the diamond mine, whatever the effect there is. And no joke, he becomes known as the Black Panther. Cut that out, bring that over. When are you making another Bronze Age video? Ah, man. Just as soon as we can get more reliable information about a specific individual person from the Bronze Age. Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe I could do some kind of, like, mythology, legend, it'd be kind of a stretch to do, like, the Trojan War. But, yeah, I've gone looking for stuff from ancient Egypt because I would really like to do some of that. And there's a few pharaohs, like Hatshepsut is interesting. I've sort of held off on her for a little bit because Kogito made a video about her not too long ago. Ramses, as I recall, was just kind of like standard fare, like, oh, he was a pharaoh and then he won some wars and Egypt was powerful. But there's so many dynasties of ancient Egypt, and so few of them have specific people that we can really, know what they did in their life. Ever thought of doing ASMR? No, I do not like ASMR. I would not, could not, on a boat. Ryan Matthew Lang asks, is this a Q&A? Yeah, kind of. It's, in theory, I'm working on some editing and behind the scenes and kind of giving you an insight into what YouTuber actually does all day. But yeah, there's a lot of Q&A. As these things tend to be. Oh, no, wait, there's an order I need to do this in. I think it's this. No. First, because if you do it one way, it's a lot faster than if you do it the other way. I believe it's first you do this, and then you break that up. Whoops. And you leave these up there. Then you make all this stuff do what it does. Unlink. Add frame hold. So this ends up being the little podium man talking in front of a frozen clip of the video. What part of history do you think deserves more attention in media? You mean like in stories, like in movies and that kind of thing? I don't know. Like, all the parts that I've talked about, are things that I think could be made into compelling fiction, or, compelling based on a true story type stuff. I'd say in general, like, Chinese history, like Asian history as a whole, kind of gets overlooked, at least in media. Same with, I would like to see a little bit more attention and love for Byzantine history, because there's so much love for Rome. I feel like it's a really easy extension of that. Especially because so much of it is interesting. It's just, you don't, instead of having this like great ascendant empire, you have this golden disaster empire instead. What am I? Oh, I'm looking for the dude's tie. There we go. Yeah, so I'll say that. I'll say like Asian history and Byzantine history. Would you marry Morgan Freeman for 1 million subscribers? I don't know. That's a it depends on the specifics of that marriage, I suppose. Joseph Mariani asks, "What was the most disturbing fact you learned during your research?" I don't know if this would. I don't think this is something I was completely unaware of prior to the research, but when I was doing the Wojtek video, I learned a lot more about the Holodomor, however you pronounce it, which was when like Russia semi-intentionally starved everyone in Ukraine, kind of in a similar fashion to the Irish potato famine, actually, which was another thing that made me go, oh, I always knew about the Irish potato famine, but wow, it is a lot darker than I remembered. So yeah, I would say those two things were pretty rough to learn about. Civil War week by week would say fully intentional. Yeah, I'm like I'm hesitant to, just because I'm having to recall it off the top of my head. I'm always hesitant to throw too much shade at people or countries, but yeah, pretty intentional, because it was like there was a mass kind of like export of food when they were already having a bad harvest. Would Marco Polo be on your people to talk about list? I don't know. Marco Polo. I'm getting deja vu because I think I was editing something just like this when I was listening to OSP's Marco Polo video. Marco Polo. I don't know. I don't know who he is as a character. I think it's like, his adventures are interesting, but it's kind of just a list of places that, oh, I forgot to replace these all before. It's kind of just a list of places that Marco Polo went, unless he like did a whole bunch of stuff that I'm just unaware of while he was there. And it's like, it's great to be able to be like, hey, here's a snapshot of the world in 1340 or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. He's just also, I think he's kind of, if I remember that OSP video correctly, I think he's not 100% reliable either. The Overlord says, I feel the same way about Persia, specifically Achaemenid and Safavid Persia. Oh, are you talking about like places that have been overlooked? Because that was, yeah, Persia. Persia only really seems to show up when the Greeks are involved. Like Persia will be there for 300, but Persia is never the star in its own movies and stories and things. It's always just kind of there as either like an antagonist or a supporting figure. It's like, oh, we'll travel to Persia to learn about blah blah blah, or the Persians are the bad guys in like 300, but I feel like that's all the instances of Persia that I can think of. Yeah, same thing with Ibn Battuta, is that it's kind of, I did seriously think about Ibn Battuta for a while, and I think I started taking notes on him, and then I just kind of stopped partway through because I realized it was just, he went here and he went here and he went here. Same with Zheng He. Like it's cool that he did that, but I need to know a little bit more about the man himself. Do you think a real count of Gandhi's life would be too controversial for you? I don't know. I know Gandhi has like some controversy around him, kind of like a dark side, but I have no idea, and I'm not about to get into that right now. Where is that last footnote that I actually wrote? How much would you pay for Hung Shuchuan's demon slaying swords? Ooh. Ah. I don't know. I don't know what I would do with them after the fact, but I feel like they would be worth, at least like $1,000. If I was able to cough up that kind of money. Favorite dynasty? Are we talking like dynasty? Favorite? Orson Hewitt asks favorite dynasty. I don't know what kingdom they are referring to, or just in general. Yamato dynasty is pretty cool. A number of the ancient Roman dynasties are pretty cool. Julio-Claudians are an interesting mix, just because they're all very different from one another. Yeah, in general. Habsburgs are another solid dynasty, of course. The Ptolemies, just because of the sheer ridiculousness to the degree that they inbred. Oh yeah, I totally skipped this while recording. Time to add it in post. What about Duck Dynasty? How big of an issue are, in your opinion, situations where modern people are judging people from the past and their actions using today's moral and ethic guidelines? It depends what you're judging them about. I think you can say that, regardless of what was standard at the time, it's pretty easy to say that, oh yeah, no, they were still doing, a nasty thing. You can argue whether or not that, made them a bad person by nature because of their surroundings or whatever, but I feel like that's just kind of dodging the fact that they did some nasty thing. It's, you can say, oh yes, if they were, born today, they would probably be a much better person. And they're yeah, people's situations do influence the kind of person they become. But it still feels kind of weird just to be oh, we'll just ignore the bad stuff. Turno asks, how hard is it to live off the inconsistency of YouTube money? If it were AdSense alone, I would not be living off of YouTube money. If it were just AdSense, yeah, I would be having a real tough time. I would think, based on AdSense, there have been maybe 2 months where I would have been able to make a living. That is to say, there have been 2 months where the amount from AdSense would be enough to, pay my bills and live a normal life. But with, sponsorships are a little more regular. I recently changed my rates so that I could, attract more sponsors and try to, line them up further in advance, because I would rather make a little less money but know that I can have those, have it secured for a few months, rather than try to, make as much money as I can from each individual transaction and then just end up with a bunch of sponsors that are disappointed in me not being able to, live up to the way I hyped myself. But I realize I didn't actually get to the root of your question. Ultimately, it hasn't been too bad. It's been, between kind of the regularity of sponsorships, the sheer generosity of everyone on Patreon, and every once in a while, a nice little bit from AdSense, and doing some part-time work with useful charts. It's ended up being consistent enough that I, feel comfortable making a living, and I'm not, worried about going out onto the street anytime soon. But that being said, it was definitely... I definitely made the transition to going full-time when that wasn't necessarily the case. So, if that's something you're thinking about, it takes a few years even to get to that point, and then you kind of just have to have enough saved up. Either continue to wait until you bridge that gap and for certain that you will not have a bad month that's going to totally screw you, or have kind of enough saved up that you can take that leap without totally having to live with the consequences one way or another. If you were transported to the 16th century, what would you do to survive? I mean, first off, I would hope I was in like England, and at which point I would kind of be able to speak the language, and then I don't know. Like, I don't have enough technical knowledge. Like, I can talk about modern inventions all I want, but I do not have the sort of technical knowledge to actually support myself and bring any of that back to the past. I could try making predictions about the future, but I could potentially be accused of witchcraft, which would not be great. So probably I would just end up taking whatever menial labor position I could get and hoping to apply my knowledge and expertise from there. Okay, I am going to record this real quick. Where's the record button? It's missing. There it is. Oh no. Oh my god, make it stop. Fun fact, one of the diamond mines taken by the British would end up producing the largest diamond ever found, a large piece of which sits in the Queen's crown at this very moment. It's like a museum of stolen artifacts sitting right on top of her head. There we go. I can add that in. Try to stick it in the video. At which point, I am probably going to call it a day. Chainsaw and shotguns are nice till you ran out of ammo. Yeah. Have you ever decided not to talk about a certain topic because you deemed it too political? No, I don't think so. Like, I kind of make it a point to avoid the 20th century, and especially the 21st century, for that reason. Because I think those are more likely to be political subjects. But I haven't been like, oh, this would make such a great video, but unfortunately it's going to be too political, so I've got to avoid it. I've never been in a situation like that. Oh, I'm going to have to go back here to get that diamond clip, aren't I? Or am I? Yes, I am. But luckily this is still playing, so I can see exactly where I need to be. Ah, this is beautiful. Oh, this is like, okay. This comes... Wait, is this the Black Panther part? Alright, I'm losing my mind. Everything is not looking like where it should be. Let's duplicate this. Then we get rid of that audio, freeze that, stick that part next, and then add the respective audio. Great. Except Mao. Yeah, except Mao. Because Mao, I had spent a long time learning about Mao. I took a course on Chinese history, so I felt comfortable enough talking about Mao. Because Mao was like, he was interesting enough that like I couldn't let him slip through my fingers, and that's exactly what I mean about like, I could have been like, no, that's too political, I'm gonna avoid that, but I didn't feel that way. How do you deal with haters? I don't know. It hasn't really been, like, an issue. Like, there'll be people who will come in being like, your voice is annoying, your videos are dumb and stupid, and, like, at a certain point, especially like as sort of a law of scale of YouTube channels and media, like those sort of comments will inevitably come. So it almost feels like, oh yeah, that's just like a natural reaction to having a thing that is seen by lots of people. Like they may as well materialize from the ether. Oh yeah, and Andreas Forster saying I'm doing my master's at the Royal Military College of Canada. If you need help with research, I may I may take you up on that at some point. I think you might have sent me an email before. But most likely, it's like I. There have been a couple of points. I have had someone help me with research in the past, and usually it's for like something that I don't totally understand, or like I really need to like verify it from another source, and I don't know where to go looking for that, or I don't have access to JSTOR. But most of the time, like the research it's something that like it's not just that the facts of the video need to be researched, it's that I kind of need to be able to like look at all the facts and look at what happened in history and kind of decide how I want to tell that story, and where I think the story is. You know, if there's stuff that I want to cut, if there's like, oh, he has this blah 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 personal relation, like does that affect anything to do with the rest of his life? How can I make this as like linear an experience as possible without bouncing around a million different places? So there's a lot that kind of goes into the research and writing process beyond just like gathering the information. So for that reason, I don't tend to rely like too heavily on other people doing research. That's why my first priority was to like have people help me with animation, because that's something that I felt a lot more comfortable passing off to someone else. Okay, that's the diamonds. Alright, that is the part that comes after the Black Panther, which is over here. Whoop. And then we want this section. Oh, I haven't compressed this. That's a thing I should probably do. Well, I was about to say too late now, but that's not actually the case. I can do that later. I can do that whenever I want. I will compress this audio whenever I damn well please. Add frame hold. This can be messy. Would you fight one Wojtek or 10 Teddy Roosevelts? Oh, don't make me choose between that. I mean, I think I gotta go with like if my objective has to be to beat them, I feel like I could potentially have a chance with Wojtek. It would not be pleasant, but I think 10 Teddy Roosevelts, like there's being outnumbered that much, Teddy's absolutely going to get the upper hand. That's not what I need to do. I need to do this trick again. Except I need to do this. If you bring alcohol to Wojtek, you won't need violence. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get him drunk enough to where he passes out, right? Like, that's the thing. You can trick a bear a lot easier than you can trick Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, cool. JDB asks, do you record audio first and then find or make footage? Yes, that is exactly what I do. I write without really knowing what it's going to look like, and then I record, and then I go looking for footage to match. Actually, that's not entirely true. Usually I will write and I'll make a shot list for the like full animation scenes, but for the chalkboard, I will just look for stuff that happens to match. Because usually it's just a matter of like finding the people that I'm talking about, or like a play on words with something that happens to be in the script somewhere, that kind of thing. Turno asks, you've got some good questions today. I appreciate all the stuff that like actually has to do with behind the scenes things. Ask, how hard was it to do the first like 10-ish videos? Not that hard. Because the first 10-ish videos were a lot simpler. Like they were, here's a good example. I will close out of this project, because that's as much as I'm going to get done with this right now. And I can open, I did a clip, thank you. I did a clip for, like a 5-second clip for JJ McCullough, on a video he did like a week ago, he may have put it out. And so this was kind of what that looked like. And as you can see, there's a lot of different layers, all of these images I had to find separately and like make sure that the perspective on the plates and the perspective on the tempura matches the perspective on the table, and that matches the perspective on that. So it's like you have to sort through a lot of images to find it all. And then there's like his arm, the chopsticks, and his hand. There's 2 layers of his hand. His hand is over the chopsticks, and one chopstick is in front of the food, and one chopstick is like behind whatever the piece of food that's going to get picked up. And the arm moves separately because it's nested in this thing here. Is that what I'm looking for? No. Isn't it? Oh, I guess the that's not right. It should be nested, because when he falls over... Oh, maybe it's all just at the same... It's probably all at the same anchor point. But anyway, that's kind of what like the animation looks like nowadays. Whereas if I go to... I'm probably going to have to like update it for the latest version of Premiere. But if I go all the way back to... I don't think I have a project file for this. I think I just have random images. Yeah. Probably the earliest one I can go back to is around here-ish. Let's find out. No. Haydn? Can I access Haydn? Surely. Surely I must still have a Premiere project file here. Where is it? Oh, this is outrageous. Otherwise, I will not be able to make my point if I have to go to a video that's too recent. Huh. Okay. Well, apparently I can't do that. But the point is that the first 10 videos, like, there wasn't any of this stuff going on. It was literally just, pictures popping up. And I think with YouTube, that's the best thing to do, is just start with, like, a basic idea, come out with a proof of concept, and iterate until you get something that works and that, really kind of resonates with people. Turno says, thanks, I'm more interested in the meta view than per video. Awesome. A great perspective to have. Andrew Moore says, I look for more channels I can listen to and comment on. Video is kind of dumb. I don't know what that means. Andreas Forster says, how can we stay in contact with you in case you call upon my services? Somewhere in like my about section or something, I have a business email, so you can do that. Not So Cringe asks, why are your videos so short? Fool, I have been like doubling the length of my videos for the past month or so. You want short? It used to be like 5 minutes. That, or you're just going through my back catalog and you haven't seen the new ones. Or 13 minutes is still relatively short, I guess, compared to some people. Coney Desert Deer says, hello, I hope this has some great learning value. Was thinking about starting a YouTube channel, maybe. This will be great use to me, I hope. Yes, top tips. title and thumbnail are still really important. Try to have those planned in advance as much as you can. Make a proof of concept and iterate. It's a lot like entrepreneurship. You just gotta like come out with something that is good enough and then work to improve it from there. Are you going to stay with a longer format, return to the shorter format, or do a mix of both? I'm going to be staying with the longer format. There are things that I miss about the shorter format. Like, in an ideal world, I could do the full animation of the shorter format and just make it like 15 minutes long and have no problems. But just kind of the reality of it is that the longer format, by and large, because YouTube values watch time, because the price of admission for every video is the same. So if you like go to extreme lengths in terms of production value or something, like it might get you some more views, but like in terms of how that conflates with the watch time, like it's a lot easier to double the watch time than to double the views. So yeah, but also like the longer format, I've like, even before I wasn't able to do that kind of full animation for 10 minutes or something, and I do find it a lot more freeing in terms of script writing to be able to write a script that just includes everything I want to talk about, and it goes for like 10 or 12 minutes, as opposed to having to pick something that's only 5 minutes. Whereas like with the Pompey video, with the to a certain extent with the Woods of Tien video, or like Teddy Roosevelt's, like there are these videos that just, the person did so much that I have to just summarize years of their life with, and then he went around and fought pirates, and this longer format allows me to actually go further with that. Yeah, trimming stuff is hard. JDB says, ever thought about doing short format stuff on other platforms? Maybe. If there's like, I might like as like a special episode for Patreon, for patrons, or for like, if eventually, like I've done a little bit of work with Armchair History TV. What I would love to do with them is to, like, as their website gets bigger, is to like take on some bigger projects with them that I couldn't do on YouTube right now. But right now, their budget is kind of comparable to like what sponsors do, so it's kind of just, it's a different format, because I still plan to do some stuff with them that I wouldn't be able to work into my like strict biographies only format. But yeah. Finbar Conlon asks, would you look into any TikTok content? I don't really use TikTok. I've had thoughts about using TikTok. I've thought that like something like this took me like an hour or two to make, and it would be great on TikTok to do the stuff that I did like with the those like world history in 1 minute videos, where it's just it's sound bites taken from other things and animated to reference historical events. Like that feels kind of perfect for TikTok. But they take a little bit of work to make, and I am not, I guess I need to follow my own advice, because what I like, if I were to use TikTok, my ideal would be like, okay, great, I come in there with a plan, and every couple days I have a new 10-second animated clip that references something from one of my videos, but with a funny soundbite attached to it, and it'll be great. But I just haven't done that, because that has been really intimidating, and so I have never really gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit down and make a TikTok video. Armchair History TV is like an elite club we can only dream of. Andrew Moore doesn't think Teddy Roosevelt was so tough. Teddy Roosevelt, he won a gunfight with his bare hands. You could always just T-pose. There you go. Do you think history is more important than just cool stories? Yes, I do. I think that it is more important than that, but I am not like the person who is, really, not to say that I like can't appreciate the more important aspects of history, but just that like what I do on YouTube is more to the effect of like trying to get people excited about history and trying to get people to want to learn more about it, um, rather than being further down on the pipeline where I'm only talking to people that are already really invested in history and already think it's really important, because that is, a, it's a smaller audience, but b, I think some of the random stuff about history that just makes for a good story is really interesting in its own right, and I don't think it's so bad to have fun with it like that. Okay. I'll take this last question, and then I am going to call it a day here. Turno asks, do you fear your channel becoming too big and be like Internet Historian that everyone else is seen as being a copy of you? Not really. I haven't really worried about getting too big just yet. Although I am kind of curious as to like where, like, I think every the idea and the basis of a channel will only take you so far and attract so many people, and there's a certain kind of limit on the audience, and I kind of wonder where that is for me. But no, I haven't worried about being too big, and I think that like if everyone else is seen as being a copy of you, that sounds like you're in a great position, because it means that the entire subgenre, the entire niche of like your style of content, everywhere people go, all they think about is you. If no one else is, if you don't have any like original competition, that's great. So no, I do not fear that. So all right, with all that, my voice is starting to go a little bit. I need to grab a drink of water, and I am going to call it a day here. Thank you all for tuning in and watching me go through the thrilling process of siphoning through Word documents and editing in Adobe, and I will see you all whenever I do this next time. Cheers.